Good morning. Good morning. Welcome, everybody, to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host, Samantha Studebaker-Carl, and I'm here with my good friends Dan and Catherine. And today we're talking about Chapter 10 of The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. And Chapter 10 talks about dating, and let me get to the beginning of this chapter here, dating relationships and figuring out dating. I only got about partway through this chapter, so I apologize for that. I should be on top of it more, but I'm a person and I have like a million things going on. So I have excuses too, and I'm not going to use them. I am using them. But anyway, okay, enough of that. So anyway, guys, introduce yourselves and then we can get into the topic of this chapter, see if I can gather my brain thoughts and make an intelligent conversation.
Morning, this is Catherine Clement from Boulder, Colorado, getting ready for the snow.
Snow! Oh my gosh, no.
We had snow a few days ago, but we're about to get some more tomorrow, or tonight and tomorrow.
Oh, that does not make me excited at all. Snow, no.
Dan Sissick, I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada, and we are actually cooling down. As I was watching a little bit of the news last night, a whole big swath of I think the Midwest and all that, and even including to us, are all dropping quite a few degrees. And I actually turned on the heat a little bit this morning at where I'm at, house and dog sitting. So it's cool. And yes, Andy, I'm a little antsy today because I didn't get a lot of sleep last night because I'm tired. To tease Sandy, she was teasing me because I'm all animated today, and I don't know why I'm animated. I'm just glad to see everybody here, and I missed everybody, and so it makes my Saturday morning when I can see everybody.
You want to jump out, introduce yourself, Sandy, and then we'll roll forward? I can't hear you. You're unmuted. Weird. Well, maybe jump out and jump back on again. I don't know. Well, when you get back, when we hear you, we'll let you know. You can jump out. Okay, well that's frustrating. I thought I was going to have sound issues this morning too, but I didn't. So thank you for that. So okay, so chapter 10 of the 5 love languages. So I thought this one was really interesting, at least starting out with, because it reminded me that, of course, talking about dating and, the Western culture is all about dating. That's a big part of our culture, right? And I didn't really think about the fact that dating is not so much a thing that happens everywhere, that a lot of cultures don't even have dating. And, I thought that was really interesting. And, there was a number of years when I was when I was really frustrated in my relationship with my husband, like earlier on, where I felt like, oh, this is just like, I didn't choose this. This isn't what I wanted. I feel like it's an arranged marriage, kind of thing, which didn't make any sense because I did choose it. And I did, it was just, in our brains, we make up these stories in our head of what's going on. And that was a story I told myself, it was just like silly, but anyway, so Sandy, I think we might be able to hear you. I heard like an echo or something when you came on.
Okay.
Yay, we hear you. Awesome.
Yay. Good morning. Sandy Root here in sunny Miami Beach. Nice and hot still.
So we can all be jealous of Sandy. Because, it's not super warm here either. I mean, the sun is out, and it's supposed to be up to maybe 50 today, so I'm glad about that. But I'm thankful I'm not about to have snow, Catherine. But you wouldn't live in Colorado if you didn't like the snow, so I'm assuming that you're excited about it. Or I'm guessing. Are you excited about it?
Yep.
Yay. Okay, cool. Awesome. So what did you guys get out of this chapter? That was kind of like one of the first things that popped up in my head, was that interesting about, the different, obviously different cultures do things in different ways. And, just the fact that we've got dating is our culture, and then other cultures, they don't even have dating. And it's curious to me how that all works. So you just like never meet a person and then all of a sudden they're there and they're your husband or wife. But I don't know, that'd be crazy. And my thought process, sure.
Well, for me, I kind of was like you. I didn't realize. I mean, I've heard it, but I didn't really realize just how much the Western culture is a lot different than basically the rest of the world, and how. But I'm trying to think, and that might be something just to go look up, is how did it evolve into being more of a Western culture thing, and why did we stem away from it when the rest of the world? Because I do believe that we all kind of descended from to ancient times and stuff from you know basically you know certain general populations that expanded and explored and did stuff and moved on and out. So how did it come about to being more of a Western thing, and why did it get frowned upon to look at arranged marriages so deeply the way we do? Because we really look down on it in other cultures, and yet they kind of really look down at us for the way we do ours, and the fact that I don't think our success rate is any better than in those cultures. you know like it says, in those cultures they have it arranged, and they say you'll learn to love them over time. And so that's the one thing that really just went on in my head as to how it really branched off and changed so much.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting in there that it was saying that that a lot of cultures where dating isn't even a thing, they actually have a long history of stable marriages, and which is interesting to me, because we think we know everything, right? Over here in the West, we're like the youngest culture, but yet we think we know everything. And isn't that typical, though, of children, right? I mean, not that we're all children, but I don't know. If you look at uh, I don't know, the history of history or whatever, I guess our culture is kind of like the youngest, but we're the most diverse, I think, though, too. I mean, we have like people from all different cultures that are mishmashed together here, and then we're all just trying to figure it all out. And it's fascinating to me. But I find it interesting, and I kind of wonder if in those cultures where there is, where it's arranged marriages, I don't know, and I'm not sure what the other options are in the different cultures. If it's not arranged marriages and they don't do dating, what happens? I don't know. Does anybody else know? Have you read anything about any of the other cultures that don't? Is it just all arranged marriages? I don't know.
I don't think it's necessarily all arranged, but in a lot of cultures, men and women are not allowed to be alone together. So they might be accompanied by a brother or an uncle or whatever, anytime that they're in each other's presence, until they're married. Some of that is safety reasons. There's cultures where obviously the women are much more clothed than here in the United States. And some people see that as very oppressive and very, like a negative thing. But it's really done um, for the women's safety and to preserve their um, pureness, their beauty. And I think about that a lot because, you know, I live in this college town and we have so many guys from other cultures coming in, and the girls here walk around barely clothed, even when it's snowing. Like it's crazy. And I think about them and I think, gosh, they must just be like completely overwhelmed with testosterone, you know, because they hear they've never even seen a woman's flesh and now they're seeing all of her flesh. And I mean, everything is hanging out from under these shorty shorts that they're wearing. And I think I think the cultures could definitely, there's a middle ground there somewhere. I think we could all learn from each other. But it's interesting because, you know, I've been married quite a few times now, and most of well, almost all of those marriages, they'll quite quickly, you know, like one of the things it talks about in the book is that for the first 2 years, you're basically in lust, not in love. And that your emotions and your hormones and everything just kind of take over. You know, you're dating and you get the tinglies and you think it's love, and you get married a week later or 3 months later or even a year later. But they're saying in this book that basically for the first 2 years, it's not real. I mean, it's real, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's after the 2 years when the quote honeymoon phase wears off and suddenly you're not looking through rose-colored glasses and thinking this person is the most perfect person in the world. Suddenly now you're seeing that, you know, they're doing whatever annoying things you don't like, and and then you're wondering, what the hell did I do? And whereas in an arranged marriage, I don't think that definitely doesn't, that's not even a component, you know. Um, in an arranged marriage, you're learning about, you know, like you might just be getting to that stage at 2 years, for all I know. You know, you might just be getting to that tingly stage, and probably it's reversed. You know, probably you're noticing all the annoying things at first, and then as time goes on, um, that's when you start to fall in love or lust or whatever. But it's an interesting, the thing about arranged marriages, and the book brings this up too, or even just people, like it starts out saying that a lot of people have chosen not to date at all, that it's just frustrating, you know, nobody has time for it anymore, it's a bunch of head games, it's, you know, it's like, what's the point? And then it goes on to talk about 5 reasons why you should date, or 5 reasons that dating, 5 things that dating does, it helps us do. So for arranged marriages, that's, I think, one of the pitfalls is that you've never experienced another person. I'm not saying go out there and be a hoe, but I'm just saying, you know, if you've only ever been with one person, it would seem to lead the imagination to wonder what somebody else would be like. You know, just natural curiosity, especially if it's an unhappy situation. You know, you would be daydreaming about something else or somebody else or whatever. So that's the only pitfall I see. I don't think that, I mean, I can see all the points that the book made about how dating serves, but I don't think we necessarily use it in those ways. Most people are just going out and getting it, you know. And if we did use it in the ways that the book says, then I think we could really make better marriage choices, and our marriage rate, success rate would be higher in the US. But really, we have the poorest of anywhere, I think.
Yeah, as you were talking, Catherine, I was thinking about how, from the male perspective, um, you're right that, in our culture, we basically see the the everything that's, what in a lot of, to guys that makes guys get kind of the way we get, when we see a beautiful woman or a woman that we think is beautiful or attractive, way before we ever get to know them. And sometimes I think, kind of like, I think you were alluding to, Samantha, that in the book, with the ranged stuff, and I know you definitely were talking about this, Catherine. Um, you know, getting that time where you get to know, and you have to kind of get to know the person, in the arranged marriage before you can really kind of get to that where, you finally see the qualities that are inherently what might be what you're attracted to, what you want, for that stableness. Like in the book talks about, like after that initial 2 year period, then you kind of are at that kind of where you have to get real and you realize each other for who you really are. And at that point, then you can establish, some of the fundamentals of, oh yes, we're compatible in this, we're believe in these same things, we have these same things that are common, so that can help sustain a marriage for a longer uh, period of time and give you the workings to have a more solid relationship. But um, I personally, think that, sometimes when I see a woman that's dressed really nice, but she's modest, but still accentuates her beauty in a way that still is modest, but still, catches my eye. I think that's much more appealing, and I like that more than a lot of women where they throw everything out there at me, and it's like, really, okay, now there's, okay, yeah, you're pretty, but what's underneath you, and are you really, are you doing it because you are trying too hard, for lack of a nicer way of saying it, or is there underlying issues? Do you feel like you have to do that in order to catch somebody, and you can't get it on your own, catch a guy on your own merits, or work on, and that's kind of where I look at it. But that's because I'm a little bit older and I've, lived a little bit longer. Granted, I've never been married, but I have had relationships and things like that too. And I think that's, you know, part of where we get a little backwards in our culture, in the Western culture, of understanding, what should be the bedrock and foundation of the relationship, rather than, um, having it all out there, right, so to speak, in plain sight. You know, that's how I kind of see it.
I'll pop out. I wish I had had more time to read the chapter beforehand. I definitely have to read it because I am dating a new guy. And for me, I guess as we're talking about dating, it was sort of an arranged date. So we actually have two separate mutual friends who know us from New York, because he used to live in New York, that over the past couple of years just kept saying, have you two met yet? You guys should meet. And things just never, fell into place. And then finally this year, a couple months ago, one of our friends was contacted us both at the same time, like, I'm sorry to be nosy, but have you guys met yet? So we finally met. He texted me, and then another friend of mine that lives here, actually, I was telling her about him, and she's like, oh, I met him. She's like, wow, you guys are perfect for each other. So everybody's just like putting us together. It was like this, the universe was telling different people who didn't even know each other to put us together. So it's been interesting. But I mean, over the past, I guess, maybe a little bit that I have dated on and off over the past couple of years, and I found like this amazing mentor who really says using dating as a way to learn about yourself, to learn about others. It doesn't have to be this thing of like, I need to find the one, and it has to be this way, and having all these expectations, but really just enjoying it. And so that's how I've been looking at dating more in the past couple of years. It's just really go enjoy and enjoy meeting a new person. If it doesn't work out, who cares? Just move on, and it doesn't have to be this everything, just with all these expectations each time, just to learn about yourself. And I've realized too how much I've learned about men, how they function, how, they're different species. So I know that it's helped me become more patient and more receptive and more feminine to just, let them be the way they are and be myself. And I'm just a completely different person than I was 2 years ago when I was in the past relationship. So yeah, the things like he's saying here, you're learning about the person and your strengths and weaknesses, practice serving others, and discover the person. Well, I didn't read that part, so I'm not sure what that means, but, what was I going to say? Yeah, so I guess I'm at this stage where as I'm reading the book, I keep thinking, what's his love language? I don't know yet. So, but I'm going to play with them all as we're dating and see what his love language is. And yeah, just been a nice process. And, I think part of the dating too is to really learn to not take things personally too. I think a lot of times when we're dating, we beat ourselves up if something goes wrong or this person didn't work out. And, just really like enjoying it, and the right thing will work out. It will just flow. It doesn't have to be like being pushed. So those are my thoughts at the moment.
It is interesting how we tend to question things when it comes to another person, and am I doing this right, or am I saying that right, or is he like what I'm doing or not, or whatever, and it's interesting just, even with my husband, we've been together now for 27 years now, a long time. And our relationship has changed, completely from what it was way back when. At the beginning, it was, it was a young relationship. Now we've been together for all these years and we're very comfortable and but I've noticed that just in my own way of looking at our relationship has changed a lot. And I feel like, I'm more in love with him now than what I was when I was young, and having the tinglies, and but sometimes I wonder, I'm like, is he feeling the same way? Is he feel as more in love with me now than he was when he was young? Or was it, it's funny how we just we have to overanalyze everything, right? And he's never given me any indication that he is questioning our relationship at all, and yet I wonder sometimes, because I have all these crazy thoughts in my head, and I'm like, oh, I wonder if he's thinking that, or I wonder if he's, whatever. He's probably not. He's probably thinking about trucks and motorcycles and doesn't even think about our relationship, because it's just here and we're happy and he doesn't have to worry about it. So he's not, I don't know, maybe. But it's interesting though how we do that to ourselves. We just yeah. But I've never dated really. I mean, when Chris and I first got together, it was we had a couple of dates, but then we were just together, and we've been together ever since. So before that, I may as well have just been in high school, so I don't even really count that, because never know what we're doing when we're at that age. So I wouldn't even really count that as a whole lot of experience in dating. So, but I'm excited for you, Sandy, to be at this stage in your personal development, and then also be, exploring dating from just a completely different perspective as what you might have when you were younger, or what most the average people are doing right now. And but I love how it does remind us in this book about how, when you are getting to know someone and you're noticing these things about them, that those things that kind of jump out at you as maybe annoying or something along that lines are actually things about yourself that you're working on. And, and even with my husband over the years, when I have recognized, I've been annoyed by something that he does or doesn't do or acts, usually it's how he's acting about something or being versus specific things that he does. And and if I just sit there and think about, okay, what is it about that is bugging me so much? It always ends up being it's something that I'm working on myself, or I am ignoring that I should be working on myself, and and it aggravates me. But it's the same way with my sister and my mom. Anytime that I have a conflict with them, it's generally something that's in my own head or in my own persona that is something that I know I need to work on that I'm just not, and so it just annoys me. So I found that interesting.
I was just
Rob,
going to throw this.
go
Oh,
ahead. Go ahead.
oh, okay. Well, I'm going to be quick, Catherine. I was just going to throw this out in relation to your husband being a guy. Because in the book it says, practicing serving others and, using that as part of the relationship and how to discover you. I think you probably now have, you understood what works for your husband, so you probably make sure you do those things and everything like that to help, get what you hopefully receiving back. But with most of us guys, I think as long as we get what we feel like we need, we're happy, and we don't really go looking at anywhere else. It's just when those basic things and the things we need from being built up as a man, edified and respected and stuff and loved, but along with the other things, I think that's why you probably don't really ever see him looking or questioning or stuff. He's like, cool, my thing, I'm fine, I'm getting what and hopefully he responds back the right way, back towards you. But that just gives you a little insight into the guy's psyche, that kind of, you know, we're kind of like, we really don't put a lot of, thought into those things. If we get what we want, a lot of times I think we get back. So that way we keep getting what we, so on that end, I think I hope that helps you a little.
Yeah, I was just going to say you brought up an excellent point, Samantha, when you said, I don't count high school because nobody knows what they're doing then. And I think I think as horrible to us as, quote, arranged marriage sounds, like I watch a lot of medieval movies and shows, and they were always marrying the princess off to somebody from another kingdom, and he was this ugly dude, and you're like feeling so sorry for her, but when you're young, you don't know. Most people have no idea what to look for in a person that would lead to a long and successful marriage, like stability and finances and all those things. Like when you're young, all you're looking for is the tingles. That's all you're looking for is the tingles, and you think as long as you got the tingles, everything else is going to work out, and it's not true. So I think arranged marriages in that aspect, the parents, the parents who have been married successfully for so long, they understand what to look for in a husband, for their daughter, whereas the daughter may not. And so I think in some ways there are some good aspects to it. It puts the priorities where they need to be. And in some cases, it prevents genetic disorders from being, brought into the children. Like they make sure that certain relationships don't too close, like interbreeding sort of thing, or they're keeping a race pure, which again, is a rough edge for some people. Like some people just want everybody to assimilate. Other people feel very strongly about keeping their race pure, their bloodline pure. Like the tribe, the native tribe that I belong to is matriarchal. Like they don't, the women run the tribe, and that's because the men can just go out and spread their seed wherever, and they're just diluting the blood, you know. So if you don't have they don't even recognize me because it was my grandfather that was pure blooded. So, and there's something to be said, like I don't want all the races to be separate or anything, but I have to say that I feel horrible that like our language is gone. There's, you know, just a handful of elders that know the language anymore, and the culture is gone. We lose a lot. And so I, and of course, I'm a gray person. I've never been black and white. I always see both sides. And I can see where we've lost. And all the cultures that came here to America once had very strong community. You know, that's another thing that we don't have anymore. Everybody is separate. There used to be community, and there used to be where women would, all the aunties and everybody would get together and talk. And sometimes in our own little selfish world, we see this little problem that our husband has as like this huge thing or whatever, but if you would just get together with the aunties and talk to them about it, you'd find out that, everybody's husband does that, or what, like it's not a big deal. Like we, in our own little individualized, lonely little worlds that we live in, we blow things so out of proportion sometimes. And back when there was community and you would get together, which, I mean, we do here, like we've made our own community here, right? But you realize that some of those things are pretty silly when it comes down to it, and you're like ruining your entire life over it, and it's like totally normal or whatever. So yeah, we're all just learning and growing. Thank goodness for books like this and opportunities like this to get together and talk.
Yeah, because it would really suck to ruin a marriage over he left the toilet seat up, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess when I was younger, just like little things like that. Yeah, I mean, me and my friends or whatever, we would complain about them, and that's such a big thing, not that necessarily that thing, because I could care less, but, just little stuff like that where we just blow this all up into such huge thing. And, we don't have to do that. That's just something we just build up in our mind about what we're upset about when, that's really not even something to be upset about. And yeah, if we would just kind of look more inside of ourselves I really had to evaluate in my own marriage, what is it I ultimately want out of this situation, and we don't think about that when we're young and when we're just dating somebody as a young person. We don't think what we ultimately want out of the relationship. I mean, I think that at least when I was young, it was all, like we said, we were talking about the tingles is, if we get the tingles, then we live happily ever after, right? And that's what we were kind of like taught by Disney movies. And that's just not the way that it works at all. And if we were taught something, different, like, we have more of an idea of we want some stability. We want somebody that we are going to be able to get along with and have conversations with and talk about the tough things with. That's another thing, is that if you can't even talk to that, if you don't feel comfortable enough with that person to really talk about the tough things, then you're not going to be able to talk about them later either. I mean, that's a huge thing. And so when we're at the beginning of a relationship and we're so scared that that person isn't going to like us, and for whatever reason we're going to get rejected, and but yet I feel like that is a huge thing that we should be doing. We should be going into the relationship with the purpose of having those deep conversations and opening ourselves up to being able to find a person who we can connect with on those deeper levels versus just the surface stuff, because that surface stuff just goes away if there isn't something deeper to connect on. And whether we're talking about finances or whether we're talking about religion or whether we're talking about philosophy, life choices for the future, what do you want for your own future, and does that other person's ideas about what they want, do they line up? If I'd had these conversations with my husband way back when, we may have realized that, that isn't exactly what I've had in mind, and and may have, who knows, I don't know whether we would still be together or not. I have no idea. It just but if you could have those conversations earlier, you would avert so much of the pain that we cause ourselves later in life, of the things that we're upset about because we didn't get such and such out of life, or we think we missed out on something, or any number of stuff like that. And I think that I see so many people out there that are just in pain because they felt like they just are not getting out of life what they want out of life, and it's because they compromised themselves in a relationship earlier on, and now they're stuck because they've got kids or whatever, and and they're not willing to sacrifice their kids' happiness just to get out of the relationship, and it's like, I don't know, it's hard. But then at the same time, we make all these decisions in life, and we've chosen to be where we are. And if we can take responsibility for those choices and decide, realize, okay, this is where I am, and now how do I want my life to look like? Because that's what I had to do about midway through our relationship. Was I was frustrated and angry and resentful and all of that kind of thing, and I wasn't taking responsibility for the fact that I had chosen to be there in the first place. I'd made all these choices that put me where I was, and then deciding from there, what do I want? But I don't know. I'm rambling now.
No, actually, I think you made some good points, because I think along the lines of, I think this is where the book can come in and help you with, going through like Sandy's doing. She's actually, because we're going through the book now, is actively putting the book into practice now. And, like she's always said, okay, I don't know his love language yet, but I intend to find out. So that way she has a floor basis of where to go from, and how, and, helping to give him what he needs. And then hopefully he will learn and understand, or she can maybe even share subtly, what, how he can maybe respond back, so that way she can get the same thing in kind. And but she's like you said, she's taking a active role, and understand the consequences of where she's at, and she's purposely doing those things to learn and understand, and how she can work towards hopefully getting what she would like the relationship to be. And I think you're right. I think so many times in relationships and everything, goes back to what a couple of the other chapters said. We always want it to be about me, 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 but we forget, one, there's two people in that relationship, and then two, we made those choices beforehand. So, you know pull up your pants, tie your shoes, and you know work through it and take responsibility. Don't pass the buck. But we in society have been taught, let's pass the buck and blame it on everybody else, because I'm so special, I'm so perfect, I'm so this, I don't deserve this, and everybody should inherently know what I want and do what I desire. Well, pardon me, I'm going to get one of the few times in this world I'm going to say, but that's fucking wrong. Sorry. You know, it's just wrong, and people need to grow up. And our culture is just, very self-centered in a lot of ways when it comes to things like that, and don't realize that they put themselves in a lot of their own situations that they need to get them should take responsibilities to get themselves out and not expect everybody else to come and rescue them.
Yeah, I agree with that, Dan. And I think the other thing is we got to take responsibility for our own happiness too. Is that we if we realize that we are the ones that make ourselves happy, and we're not looking for that other person to make us happy, then I think things are going to be easier that way too. Especially if you can find somebody else who realizes that. Maybe that's the point of dating, is finding somebody who's on the same kind of growth level as what you are, so that you can both be like, okay, look, I'm interested in you, but I want to get up front with you is that, I don't expect you to make me happy, and I expect you not to expect me to make you happy. I'm in this because I'm wanting to get to know you or whatever, I don't know, figure out what it is you do want out of a relationship before you go into something, so you can have those kind of conversations. Because I think that, our culture is kind of pushing us when we're young to find that one person to be with for the rest of our lives. And there's so much pressure. And I don't even know where it even comes from necessarily, because, my parents never were like, you have to find a person and get married. It wasn't from them. And I don't know if it's just like this conditioned thing in our culture that that's what you're supposed to do when you grow up and you get out of school. I don't know, you're supposed to be in a relationship and be with somebody forever. I just don't even know. And maybe that's just me. Maybe that didn't happen to you guys. And you didn't feel that pressure. I don't know. Maybe it was because I came up in a Christian school, and that was kind of part of, I don't know. I just don't know. It is, but now I've lost my train of thought. Oh, I know what it was. I was remembering when you were saying pull up your pants, I was reminded of a book that I learned about recently. It's called Man Up. And it's not about men per se. It's just talking about, stand up and get your shit together, take responsibility, man up kind of thing. And so I'm going to pick up that book at the library and check it out and see what it's about. But it sounded like it would be an interesting one to read, but that reminded me of that. So, okay.
I think you both had good points. Yeah, I mean, I feel like there is that push of like, yeah, you're supposed to find somebody to be with forever. And, I know my mom had her disappointments when things weren't working out for me because, I guess parents have a dream of their children, finding the right person to be with them. And, but yeah, I think that pressure makes people cuckoo too, because yeah, they rush into things. It's like you guys were saying, like you get the butterfly feeling and the fairy tale feeling, and you're like, this is the one. And I mean, I've been there. Like, yeah, and just go crazy and lose your mind. And then, like you were saying, Samantha, that that brings things down the road where you're compromising your life because you didn't take the time to really, know the person on a different level, the deeper level. And that's something that I see in myself now too, is how much I've matured and how much I know what I need and what I want, and to be able to communicate that clearly. And I'm seeing the caliber of men also change, how it's changed over my life, like how I'm now attracting like really amazing, good, genuine, open, honest, vulnerable men. And so I'm like, wow. And I know that that's a reflection of the growth that I've had. And I think, it's hard for me to be patient. I'm a fire sign to begin with. And it's always like, yeah, right now, like everything in my life, no, go. But it's like, I really watched how being in a relationship, especially in the beginning, to really be patient and not rush it, because we can have all these ideas and create all these fantasies and go off of that. But when you take the time to really get to know the person, like, I still, with the guy I'm dating, it's still very new, like 2 months we've known each other. So I'm not putting all those expectations like I would have in the past. And I'm just, keep reminding myself, just getting to know him. He's still, You know, it could work out, it could not, and being realistic about it. And I think a lot of people don't do that, like take the time to be realistic and really look, like, is this going to be something that it will be good for me? Like, we can create these fantasies of like, oh yes, he's perfect and everything and this and that, and we can do this and we can get married and we can have babies and go off on those tangents and not be in the moment of what's actually happening. And I think, yeah, really just taking that time to go deeper and really get to know the person is important. And then, you know, down the road, like, I didn't compromise myself. If God forbid something does happen in 5 years, you got married and then you realize maybe years later that it's not working out, but you know in yourself that you went through it in the best way and not on a fantasy, and it was real. I mean, the guy I'm dating he recently was in a divorce, and so, you know, we're taking it really slow because he's healing and all that, but you know, just the way he handled the divorce, I can tell, you know, they really cared about each other. They're still really good friends. They did it in a good way. They have children, and so just watching him through that, I'm like, he's a really good guy, you know, like, he really cares and wants to make sure that they're okay and is taking care of them. I forget what my point was with that, but I don't know. I had a point with that, but I don't remember what it is. Anyway, that's it for now.
I just think it's interesting how you were saying in the beginning how over, I think, what, a couple of years, your friends were trying to, you know, different friends at different levels and not knowing, you know, that other friends were trying to get you to meet this guy, but how a lot of times I think, you know, sometimes people, when friends have somebody to meet, in some cases we rush to meet that person because we're like so wanting to have somebody in our life, and other times people push it away because they're just so not open to it yet. But I think you took it through the best way, how, you know, okay, now's not the time, I'm busy and stuff, but you never closed it off either. You never just shut it out. And then kind of as the universe and God and whatever out there kind of conspired and worked more to bring the right time around for the opportunity to meet this guy and maybe start establishing something. I think that's something else we all don't pay attention enough to, is that we're all like this, blinders on to, you know, this is what I want, this is what I, you know, and they need to come do this. It was funny because I heard on the radio the other day where, and I don't know how true it was or if it wasn't true, but this girl had posted something on Facebook or something about 22 things her boyfriend has to do, you know, and isn't allowed to do and stuff and things like that. And the list, and I'm just going, I'd be gone in a heartbeat because, one, just because you say I'm supposed to text you back within so many minutes, sorry, not gonna do that. I'm not on a leash. I'm not a dog. I'm not, you know, like that. I have to, you know, call back within 5 minutes anytime you call me or something like that. Can't look at another girl. Sorry, guys, look. Even when, you know, I've seen my brother look, and he's been married almost as long as you, Samantha, you know, but he doesn't act upon it. But guys are visual. We see a beautiful woman or somebody you know, that we think's attractive, we're gonna freaking look, you know. And to have, you know, somebody set established guidelines, that's just not even conducive to a relationship at all. So I think the fact that you were open and, you know, are working on lines of communication and not expecting anything, not putting any real expectations on him, that there's the room to grow and build and work on a relationship together that is mutually beneficial and what you both want, so you can move forward, go forward down the road, whether it becomes that you get married or whether you guys realize, oh, this really is not what's going to work out for us, and hopefully you can still part ways as friends and move on, and then you might end up meeting somebody that you know, or one of your friends, and you can say, oh, this is the right guy for you, and work and conspire with the universe to make it work for them, like all your friends were doing for you.
My daughter and her husband, well, my daughter's getting married today, actually. They've been living together and have kids together and everything, but they're finally going to make it official today. And it's just going to be like, oh, hi, Bill. It's going to be like they're having a friend marry them. And then like a year from now, they're going to have a quote marriage that all of us can come to. But right now, they just need to make it official. And, but their friends, Sandy, it was their friends that put them together. Like her friends, his friend, they had mutual friends, and they kept trying to get them together and kept trying to get them together. And if I remember right, I don't think either one of them were really open to dating at the time, but the friends kind of sneakily behind their back invited, like his friends invited him to a camping and her friends invited her to a camping, and then they were both there, and then they just totally hit it off. And, the friends were sort of like the parents would in an arranged marriage. They could see, sometimes we don't see ourselves and what we need, but our friends can see how we are and what we need and what would be best for us, and so I think that's really cool, that you're putting it together.
Yeah, that's a good point of just, that other people can see what we can't see. And that's really interesting. And I think that is something that we should consider also when we're dating is, and I'm not saying we should take all of our friends and family's advice all the time, because they may not see stuff that we see also. And, but I think that when we get into something so deeply where we are kind of caught up in it like a current, we get caught up in the tingles or whatever, and we aren't seeing all of the aspects of everything because we've got our little blinders on, is that we can be open to listening to what, our friends and family have to say, if they have seen us together or whatever, but, particularly, I don't know, this is like kind of off on the side of what you were saying, Dan, is that post that girl made. That's just so painful. It hurts my heart so much to see stuff like that or hear about things where people are being that way, because it makes me realize, how caught up in expectations of others that people are, and they aren't even realizing that they are the ones that have the power to be happy, not that other person. And it just hurts me so much. And there was this young woman that I worked with, and she was putting so much on her new boyfriend. I mean, so much of everything that she was expecting from him. And I'm just like looking at them going, God, you're just setting yourself up for failure in this relationship by having that kind of an attitude. And I'm like, and of course you can't tell people that, because they don't listen. If they're not searching for answers, they're not listening for it, for sure. And but it just it hurts my heart seeing that. And I'm like, my God, people, you don't even need to be dating right now. You need to be focused on figuring yourself out and making yourself happy and being happy within, before you even go out there and try and be in a relationship of any kind with anyone. But, that's just my personal opinion. And, of course, that's not what I did when I was a young person either. I mean, of course, I wasn't like that. I'd seen people be that way, and I was like, I am not being that way, But, and I get it, Dan, completely. I don't look at my husband's pictures in his phone because I don't want to see them. I don't even want to know, So I know that's on a completely different subject. But anyway, good to have you here today, everybody. And it's like a couple minutes till the top of the hour, so everybody just share a final thought and then we can wrap up for today.
Well, I was going to jump out, so I'll make this my final thought. But I think, like you were saying, you don't really one, you trust your husband, and so you don't feel the need to look through his phone and stuff and things like that and go behind his back. And but two, I think, you know, if you guys have put in the work on the relationship the way I think you say you have, you probably talk and are open about things and such things like that, and so he doesn't give you any reasons to question that and question him. And if he tells you something, you take it at face value that he's telling you the truth, because you built in that catalyst for that uh, groundwork to be able to have that open line of communication. um, and that goes back to one, realizing, like you said, that I provide for the most part what happiness I need. He brings the little extra on top to facilitate and make it even that much better. But so therefore you built that trust, and so many people just don't trust people. They don't get to that point where they can trust them like that. So that's my last little tidbit.
Anybody else have final thoughts before we go today? No?
Well,
Okie dokie. Well,
I think, I think you're right. We got to figure ourselves out. And maybe, it's always funny when somebody has a baby girl, because the dad he's like, oh, she's not going to date until she's in her 30s, and maybe, and maybe there's something to that. Maybe people shouldn't date until they've had a chance to figure themselves out, but I just wanted to go through the 5 points that the book says that dating serves, just really quickly. And if you don't have this book, it's the 5 Love Languages, the Singles Edition. This is chapter 10. And so it says that the first good thing that dating does is it develops wholesome interactions with the opposite sex. And I kind of laughed when I read this, because it says half the world is made up of the opposite sex. So, if you don't learn how to deal with the opposite sex, that's half the world you're missing out on there. And then the second one is to learn about the person, the personality, and philosophy. People have obviously different perceptions about the world, and you can learn a lot. You do learn a lot about yourself when you're dating, because, as has been said numerous times, the things that annoy us in other people is really something about ourselves. So that's another thing that it serves, is it makes us see our own, number 3, see our own strengths and weaknesses. And I laughed at this one because it says we should all wear signs around our necks reading "under construction," and that's so true, because we're all ongoing work. And then number 4 is to practice serving others. The 4th purpose of dating is that it provides an opportunity to serve others. And that's so true. And I have to say, taking yourself out of the equation and putting your attention on the other person, and instead of, what can this person give me, but coming from the attitude of how can I enhance this person's life, puts a completely different spin on things. And then, of course, number 5, discover the person we will marry or not marry. You can often find out pretty quickly when you're dating if this is compatible or not compatible. And I think as you get older and you learn more about yourself, and you come to accept, like, there's certain things about ourselves that we just need to come to accept, I think. And then there's other things that we want to change, but there's things about ourselves that we don't necessarily want to change, and we need to come to grips with that, and then understand that we need to find a person that's kind of compatible with that, right? Or there's going to be constant friction. So I think as you get older, and you learn more about yourself, and you learn what you're willing to change, what you're not willing to change. You can weed out people a lot faster. Like now they have this thing called speed dating. I don't know, I've never been to it, but I think like a bunch of people just meet in a room and you kind of sit down, and I don't know, you have like, maybe Sandy, I don't know if you've done it, you can talk to it or no. So I don't know, but you just have like a few minutes to talk to somebody basically, and you just kind of weed people in and out really fast. I don't know how that works, but you know, the internet has certainly changed everything about dating, and it like everything, there's good and bad to it, you know. I mean, it has opened up for relationships, people of other countries that was never available before, and blending of cultures and traditions and things, and I think that's a really great thing. But I think the main thing is to not just, I hate to say this, Disney movies are evil when it comes to teaching about love, you guys. Like they set people up for, they're setting up our little 3 and 4-year-old little girls with all these expectations, and maybe the guys too, I don't know, but I think they speak more to the girls. And it's not about the tinglies. We just have to realize it's not about the tinglies. I mean, the tinglies are great. There's nothing wrong with the tinglies. I'm not down on the tinglies. I'm just saying that is not what it's all about. And just like Samantha said, you know, you love your husband more now than back then when it was all about the tinglies. And I certainly see that in my parents, you know, in any long-term marriage. And even, you know, as an Uber driver, I have couples that have been, you can tell they've been married for eons, you know, get my back seat. They might just argue the whole time they're back there, but underneath the argument, like I can feel the love. It's really weird, you know, and you can just tell that they have each other's best interest at heart. And that's what it boils down to, is having the other person's best interest at the forefront instead of your own, I think. And I'm not saying to, you know, give up everything that you think or believe for somebody else, but just take the focus off of yourself once in a while.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Catherine, of that. It's not about compromising yourself. It's about, in my opinion, it is about um, considering that other person as if they were yourself, you know, because they are when you're together, like Chris and I have been forever. And, you know, what happens to him affects me, and what happens to me affects him because we are together. And our life is our life. It's not my life and his life. I mean, although we have aspects of our life that are separate, it is our life together. And you know, when you're in a relationship and it's only about yourself, it's not ever gonna. You're always gonna have conflict. You're always gonna have issues. But when you consider that other person as much as you do yourself, then that's just it's a different level, or a different way of looking at a relationship. And and maybe that's a part of it in the dating aspect, is that, you know, can I see myself with this person and taking everything that they want in their life as a part of my life? Is his life and my life going to be our life together? And can we, you know, is that something that we can do together and be happy doing together too? Because if what that other person is wanting out of life doesn't line up with what you want out of life, even if it's, you know, it's like what Chris wants isn't always what I want, but mostly on the core things in our lives, we want the same things. So, you know, if we can if we can be together and have the core of our lives be something that we both want, then that can be something that can work out well for both of you. So, guys, it's been a great conversation. We've had a lot to talk about. I'm sure we could talk about this for forever, but we got to wrap it up for today. We're already at past the top of the hour, and I know we all have things that we've got to do. So thank you all for joining us, and it was good talking with you. And we'll see you next time on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye, Bill. It was good you popped on for a minute.
Okay, thanks. Have a great day.
You too. Bye, guys.
Bye.